Good morning! So, as promised, I am going to share with you everything about King Kong in 10 minutes. No spoilers, no anything else, just this is what I've got to do today. So, you guys are my guinea pigs, if I can do it. Now, in the middle of doing this the last time, I forgot some of the information, and I also, the battery died. So it's plugged in, which is why you're kind of in a weird location. But anyway, with that, let's go. So hi, I'm Dawn. Thank you so much for letting me join you today. Before I begin, there's something I would like you to do. Imagine, if you will, something that you're afraid of. One of just anything, not any deep dark secrets, just something that you're afraid of. You can go ahead and shout it out if you want. That's awesome. I'm sorry to hear that. Well, I asked that because I'm going to share with you one of the things that I was most afraid of when I was little. I was terrified of monkeys. Yes, monkeys, don't laugh. I was afraid of monkeys. I thought there were monkeys, flying monkeys, outside the window of my room. I could not watch The Wizard of Oz, not because of the Wicked Witch, but because of the flying monkeys. I remember there was a show on, and somehow I thought that there was somebody was trying to get through the door, and somehow I thought it was a gorilla behind the door, and it freaked me out. And I remember crying about that. I don't even remember what the actual thing was, but my brother kept saying, it's not a gorilla, but it didn't matter to me. I was terrified of them, and there's a reason for it. Good reason, actually. When I was little, there was a commercial on TV for Samsonite luggage. Now, the geniuses at the marketing department of Samsonite luggage thought it would be a brilliant idea to show how tough Samsonite luggage was by having a gorilla take that luggage and throw it relentlessly around a room. Stomping on it, jumping on it, trying to tear it apart, and he couldn't do it, obviously. That was kind of the whole premise of it. But at the very end of this brilliant commercial, the gorilla gets right up in the camera and goes, "Ah!" At this huge, massive growl, and I peed my pants. No word of a lie, not being sarcastic or facetious, I peed my pants. I was terrified. And from that moment on, I was terrified of gorillas. Now, there's a reason that I explain this, because nowadays, if I, like I said, were to say I'm scared of monkeys or gorillas, most people would laugh. I mean, don't be so judgmental. People are scared of a lot of things. But that just happened to be what I was afraid of. Now, I eventually got over that fear because I was able to go to Monkey Jungle and things like gorillas. Still, I was never too thrilled about, but I was able to see them. I was able to see them up close. I got kind of up close and personal with them and realized they weren't quite as terrifying. I explain that to kind of set the stage for why, when King Kong came on the scene, he was such a big deal. In the 1930s, the world was kind of, the United States, and the majority of the world was in the throes of the Great Depression. So people had nothing. They had no money. They had nothing, literally nothing. But aside from that, people weren't able to travel. They didn't travel as readily as we do now. They did to be able to come to the United States, but it wasn't like most of the people, whomever, just got on a charter ship or a plane or whatnot and drove or flew or took a boat to Africa or Asia or Caribbean islands to kind of explore. The world was pretty much unknown at the time. Well, the likes of H.G. Wells and Arthur Conan Doyle and Jules Verne created what's become known as the Lost World genre. And what they did was they kind of took that unknown piece of tropics and Africa and Asia and all the different islands all throughout the world and made them almost romanticized, almost mystic about when people couldn't go there. They made up stories about these fantastical places and the indigenous people who were there. And because people didn't know, there weren't television shows like we have today on Travel Channel to be able to see people eating things from all over different countries offered to them by indigenous people. They had no idea. So all they could do was kind of get into their own minds and their own imaginations of what these places were like. Well, capitalizing on that, the dynamic duo of Miriam Cooper and Ernest Schoedemacher decided that it would be a fabulous, Schoedeshack decided it would be a great idea to take that to the next level. And they created a massive gorilla, a 40-foot tall gorilla, and with the expertise of Willis O'Brien using stop motion photography, created scenery and scenes that were so massive and so magnificent that people actually believed that this could exist. And King Kong became the monster, the king of the monster genres. Now, I'll tell you this. In New York City, when King Kong was released in 1933, it was released in 2 different theaters simultaneously. First time in history, at the Roxy and at Radio City Music Hall, creating a combined total seating of 10,000 seats. Again, remember, this is the middle of the Great Depression. People had nothing. People flooded those theaters. Those 10,000 seats were filled 10 times a day in each theater, 10 times a day in each theater, to be able to see King Kong. A phenomenon happened. When King Kong climbed the Empire State Building in the movie, people were running outside to see if King Kong was really on the Empire State Building. That's how realistic it was in the 30s. It was a phenomenal movie. It was groundbreaking, and if you haven't seen it, I definitely suggest that you check it out. That movie was the inspiration for a little known filmmaker whose name was Peter Jackson. Now, Peter Jackson, we know him today from Lord of the Rings. Prior to 1998, Peter Jackson kind of had a string of pretty bad films. He was just a kind of a nobody in New Zealand. Nobody really heard about him. His dream, his life goal was to be able to recreate King Kong, because it was, like I said, his favorite movie. It was what inspired him to be a filmmaker. Well, when he was going to do that in 1998, kind of everybody backed out of it, and he wasn't able to do it. Thankfully, because with the failure of starting King Kong, he was able to do Lord of the Rings, and that's really what put him on the map as an amazing director. In 2005, finally, technology caught up to where Peter Jackson could make the original King Kong was bigger and badder and more beautiful than in 1933, and he could really pay homage to it. So he took his time. That movie is over 3 hours long, and if you haven't seen it, I definitely suggest that you check it out because it is amazing. But it stars Naomi Watts, Adrian Brody, and Jack Black, who adds a whole nother dimension to it. He's just phenomenal in this. Anyway, Peter Jackson took the original movie and created all of the same characters. He added a few extra, he added depth of character to them that hadn't been there previously. Well, with that, he also created a scene that had been deleted. That deleted scene, because it was too graphic at the time, took the sailors that were accompanying on the ship, and the ship's crew fell into a ravine and they were attacked by these massive spiders. That was later put into the 2000 film with spiders and all different kinds of creatures. Now, imagine, if you will, an island so mystical it is thought only to be a myth. That is Skull Island, and that is what Universal Orlando has recreated here at Islands of Adventure. If you would be kind enough to accompany me, we will be joining the 8th Wonder Expedition to board a 40-foot long train. Now, if you remember, King Kong was 40 feet long, so this train actually pays homage to the original King Kong in being 40 feet, because Peter Jackson's King Kong is actually 25. It's a little bit shorter, made it a little bit more realistic looking. But the train is 40 feet long. It is 10 feet wide and 13 feet high. It holds 72 guests who will be brave enough to accompany us. We will be charted by one of 5 different researchers from the Eighth Wonder Expeditions Company. It will either be Jinx, or Doc, or Becky, or Kaylana, or Will, who will take us through this amazing and massive adventure. We will board the train, and this particular bus, I have to tell you, is groundbreaking for Universal. Number one, it is the first trackless bus that we have. First trackless attraction, sorry. It is the first attraction that we have that is multi-weather. In other words, there are 2 different entrances for it. If it's raining, it will go through one entrance. If it's bright and sunny and beautiful like today, it will go through another entrance. It adds a little bit of a different dynamic to it as well. And I will also tell you, the face of the rock work on the outside of Skull Island took over 70,000 man-hours to be able to create. Once inside our train, we will embark through a series of caves where we might encounter some of the natives, we might encounter some different characters and some different creatures, such as the Terapus vordax, which is kind of a bat-like creature, the Carnictus, which is, picture a really humongous earthworm with fangs ready to eat you coming up out of the ground, or the Vasosaurus rex, which kind of makes the T-Rex look like a chew toy. So, if you're brave enough and you are willing, please come with me now as we enter Skull Island, Reign of Kong. Well, there you have it. Everything you wanted to know and more about King Kong. So hopefully I will not forget half of it and we will be alright. So I'll let you know what happens at the end. Have a good day! So that was my day. I went to work, did my audition. Can't really say too much more than that. I will let you know tomorrow or the day after what the deal was, because we're not supposed to let anybody know until it's one way or the other, until everything's posted. So I will let you know then, and I'll give you more details. So in the meantime, I hope you have a great night. We will see you tomorrow, and remember, it is all part of the plan. Good night!